Hello, the Daily Sales audience. We are back for a LinkedIn Live. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we're coming back with a bang. We've got a great subject to dig into, and I think it's one a lot of you are going to connect with, a lot of your leaders are going to connect with, but most importantly, a lot of your customers are going to connect with, because sales has got really complicated. So many different tools and platforms and processes. And what happens when you make things complicated? You scare people away. People want nice, easy processes, and sales is far from that right now. So we're going to dig into this topic because I think it's one of the biggest important topics in 2023. And if you want to increase your sales, make life and the process easier for your customers, we're going to cover all that today. So please give us a hello if you're here watching live with us. Pop your name, let us know where in the world you're tuning in from in the comments box, and please bring your questions. We've got a ton of questions prepared, but any questions you've got, pop them into the comments. If we get some good ones, we'll bring them up onto the screen, and we really want to make this as value-packed as possible. So if you're here, let us know. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from, and I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Daniel Disney. I'm the founder here at The Daily Sales, and I am joined by an incredible person. Now, we've done some preparation for this session today, and when we did some preparing, it was one of those things where I said we should have just recorded this and published this. The content we covered was amazing. So Gal Deitch, who is the founder at Aligned, is here with us today, and there is no one better to discuss this. So Gal, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for having me, Daniel. Hi, everybody. Great to meet you.
We've got people joining in already, which is amazing. Donna, Sergio, Marco, Jarrett, Cherry, Marta, hello to everyone. Lots of them coming through now. I won't be able to keep up, but it's great to see you all. Please do let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We've got people from all over the world, from the US. We've got South Africa. I was in South Africa just last week. Wonderful part of the world. Gal, whereabouts are you based?
I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. So our headquarters is in Tel Aviv, and we have remote offices all over in the States, in the UK. Yeah.
Amazing. I think there's a lot of good sales technology coming from that part of the world. So it seems to be a hub for it right now.
100%, Daniel, you name it. We have a lot of the sales tech is booming here, and it's becoming even stronger in the last couple of years for sure.
Really is. It really is. Right. What I'm trying to do now, we have an events page, so I'm just going to pop a link to the stream into the events page. But let's get started because, Gal, I really want to hear your story, what led you to build the company you're building, which we'll talk a bit about later on in the session, but sort of lay the context for your background in sales, your experience, and I guess how you've seen sales change over the years. So let's click to our first slide. Give us a bit of experience, a bit of background to your experience.
Yeah, of course. So I've been in sales all my life. In my previous position, I managed the sales department, and that was about 2 years ago. And I saw my team's challenges in orchestrating the deal, in managing deals. And we had one specific deal. It was a 330K deal that my best rep was on. And I remember at one of the calls, we had like 15 people on the Zoom session. It was a super complex deal. And a week after, she came to me and she said, Gal, we're going to lose the deal. And I told her, why? What's going on? I thought we have the better, we had the better product than the competitors. And she told me, well, look, I can't seem to like hold all the pieces together. It's like too much for me to handle. Please, can you help me? And then, Daniel, it dawned to me, and I realized that today a sales manager needs to be more of a manager, an operative manager than a salesperson. And that's when I said, okay, like I know what I need to do. So I partnered with Yotam Sela, my CTO, Gal Aga, our co-founder and CEO, and we partnered together to build Aligned.
I love the story. I think the best tools and technologies come from real identified problems, from living that world, seeing what's wrong with it, and then wanting to do something about it. Sales has changed a lot. I've been selling for quite a while now, and I remember a time where there weren't really many tools and technologies, and things were a little bit simpler. Not that that was always a good thing. These tools and technologies are amazing, but with the rise of tech, how have you seen that change the sales and obviously buying landscape?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, what we see, and that's no secret, that's a bit of old news, like for the last 2 years, sales really moved to remote. So I remember back at the good old days, I used to fly to close enterprise deals. So whatever I couldn't orchestrate via the phone or via Zoom, we used to fly, meet with the prospect in their headquarters, kind of rally the troops together, do like a 1 week blitz, and close all of the missing pieces and wrap the deal. Today, everyone are working remotely. They're working asynchronously, different time zones, different hours. It just makes all the moving pieces, moving in different paces. So we also see a few interesting pillars to discuss. So first of all, we're seeing more communication channels. So back in the day, it used to be just phone and email. Today, we're seeing like what? Slack, GChat. We have the Zooms. We still use emails. You name it. Like it's endless. WhatsApp, Discord. So it really is endless. We're seeing more stakeholders. So it's harder to make decisions because you have more stakeholders involved in each and every process. And third, we're seeing that there's more types of content, right? Today you have like videos and links and different types. And so, we have more communication channels, more stakeholders, and more content to share between all of these people. It's just a total mess. That's the honest truth.
It really is. It is a mess. I think that's probably the best way to put it. It is a clutter of so many different components. Now, they're all important, they're all needed, and they all add a lot of value. But the problem is we have a very messy room. It's like a kid's or teenager's bedroom. It's just full of all these different things.
Exactly.
We need to tidy it up. But that's kind of what we want to discuss today. And to everyone here, we've got loads of people joining us. Hello to everyone who's tuning in. Thank you. Do stay with us because I promise you we've got some amazing tips, tricks, and tactics to dig into. We want to help try and clear that mess and make sales simpler, because if it's simpler for you, you'll be better at it. And if it's simpler for your customers, it's going to be easier for them to buy. And
that's the key.
Sales is tough now. I mean, we're going to talk about that a bit today. Sales is tough enough with everything that's going on in the world. What we don't need is things making it more complicated or more complex. So simplicity is definitely key. So let's go into the sort of second point I want to discuss, which we were kind of just going into anyway. Why do you think, obviously, with all this stuff coming in, we've got this messy room. How has that sort of seeped into the sales process? Why do you think sales processes have become a lot more complicated than they used to be?
Yeah, I think that's what we discussed now, right? Like moving to the remote world, more communication channels, more stakeholders. I think it's interesting to discuss, Daniel, what impact it has on the decision makers. What we're seeing is that it's very hard to get everyone's buy-in. So today you have a lot of decision makers, and you see this effect. The more decision makers you have, the harder it is to get their buy-in as a group, because every person is kind of waiting for the other department to make their buy-in, to make their decision. So it's super hard as a rep, as a salesperson, to just harness all the decision makers together into the deal. And you need to do it from the seller side and the buyer side. We're seeing an increase in the amount of decision makers per deal in about 30%. So that's a huge, huge increase in the last couple of years. And, it just makes the buying process take forever. And we all know, it's an old saying, but it's still true. Time kills deals. And the more the sales cycle prolongs, the more it's harder to close those deals.
Well, we've got to remember, Gal, it's a competitive landscape. And if your competitors are easier to buy from than you are, where do you think your customers are going to go? You could have a great product. You could be great at selling. But if you've got too much red tape, if you've got too much process, and a competitor comes in with a similar product, but actually they can get things moving quicker. I mean, it's not always that black and white, but that can be an influencer. And the reality is, some of you might be losing deals because your process is too complicated, and you might realize it. You might just be sat, and this isn't a criticism, but you might be sat there thinking that's normal. Well, it's normal. Everyone must have processes like this. And the reality is with platforms, I mean, Gal, you're building an incredible one right now with platforms like Aligned. Sales is getting easier. People are making it easier for their customers, and those are going to be the salespeople that win because it's easier to buy. I'm like that. If a sales process is complicated, if I'm buying something and I have to go through too many processes, I'm out. I want things to be as easy and simple as possible, and I'm definitely not alone in that camp. A lot of your customers are going to be the same. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. Technology's made it complicated. Technology can make it not complicated. I think that's the kind of goal we're looking for here. From your experience, sort of, enterprise selling, complex B2B, what do you think from if you're a CEO, a CMO, what do you think complex sales cycle can have on those decision makers, those incredibly busy, already, busy from start to finish? What do you think a complex sales cycle is going to impact them? How is it going to impact them?
Yeah, I think like we discussed, it's very hard to get everyone's buy-in. It's hard to harness, all the decision makers into one deal, and it just makes the buying process take forever. We really see that, time kills deals, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges you have today as a rep in enterprise and mid-market deal, even as an SDR, BDR, and even as customer success. It's very, very hard to rally the troops together, get their buy-in, especially in a downturn, Daniel, because essentially people are more hesitant or more risk averse. So the buyers are afraid to make mistake with the small budget that they already have. No one, wants to get fired by buying the wrong software that doesn't yield that value. So the complexity of the sales cycle really, prolongs everything and makes it even harder to harness everyone together.
So here's a question, because we've got a lot of people joining us today. Someone's cold calling is a challenge for the busy people. It definitely is. I'd love to know, to everyone who's watching this right now, what do you think of your current sales/buying process? Would you label it simple, or would you say it's complex? Are there quite a few stages and layers to it? Let us know what your sales process is like. It'd be great to see in the comments how the audience is kind of faring, whether we've got some simple ones or some complex ones. I think you're right, Gal. The impact is going to be, it will scare people away. If it's too complicated, they're not going to push through. And people are, as you say, in an economic downturn, they're more conscious of where their money's going, and B, their jobs, their security. There's so many factors now that complicated enough is a problem, but there's also all these other pressures that push people to want simple, easy, and effective things. So we got some really good topics to come up in just a second to really look at how we can solve this problem, but Aligned is very much aligned to that. So tell us a little bit about what Aligned is and how it's going to help. And actually, while you're answering that question, to everyone who's watching this now, anyone who watches the recording, there is a QR code you'll see on the screen. If you access that, so get your camera on your phone, hold the camera up to the QR code, it should bring up the link. That's going to take you into a room we've created in Aligned for this session. The recording's going to go in there. We're going to put a ton of resources in there, so you can kind of see it real time, Gal, as you're sort of talking us through a bit of the story.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what got us to build into Aligned, and how is it helping? What is it doing? So essentially, Aligned was built to put an end to the chaos in deals. We've created a digital workspace, both for sellers and for CS teams, designed to better manage deals. So simply put, we help to close more deals and faster. Now, how do we do it? Aligned helps to centralize all content, conversation, and processes into one unique workspace, one unified source of truth for the seller and for the buyer. And I think the coolest part of it is that because all the deal happens within Aligned, within that designated workspace, we get to leverage unique buyer data and unique buyer insights on their journey. And then we give this data and insights to our sellers, telling them, hey, your deal might be at risk. Your prospect might be supposed to be signing on the contract with you right now, but they're still looking at your vendor, at your competition in the competitor comparison deck that you added to the room. So these insights are great, and we see that our clients love it, and it really helps them to speed up the deals, simplify the deals, and enable their buyers in a much better way.
It's an amazing thing. And again, if everyone who's watching this, scan the QR code, take a look for yourself. You'll see an Aligned room, a workspace we've created for this LinkedIn Live. It's all prepared for the recording to be uploaded, and you'll see a ton of information, a walkthrough. Now imagine you had a room like that for your customers, that you could customize, that you could collaborate, create everything, one central, simple place and process. And as Gal said, backed with data and insights, so you can sort of see from behind the screen as well. I mean, it's an incredible solution to a very real problem that is very easy and simple, A, to implement, but B, makes things easier for your customers. And I love that we've kind of created a room for the session, because we've never done something like this with any of the LinkedIn lives we've done. We've never been able to do something like this. So it's already helping us, because we've now got a great place to put all the resources. Let's get a bit down to the sort of, and we've popped a link. There should be a link in the comments as well. I've just seen it pop up there. Let's take a step back. Let's go for some sales tips, because Aligned, incredible solution. Yes, selling is complex, buying is complex. Aligned helps with that. Let's look at selling right now. As you said, there's so much going on in the world. What are some of the things you're seeing in your sales teams and the sales teams you work with? What are some of the biggest things that are working for salespeople right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Daniel. So, by the way, guys, you can all see in the comments, I see Gila added a link to the room, so you can all click on the room link from the comments as well. If you don't have access to a QR code, it's right now in the comments. So just to frame this answer, I've been fortunate enough to get, I think, thousands of deals throughout Aligned of our clients. So we have access to very unique data of how sellers and buyers are interacting in different, with different sizes of clients, different sizes of companies, different lengths of sales cycle, and we accumulate a lot of data on how sellers should act these days. So the best tips and the biggest tips I can give the audience right now, first and foremost, find a way to situate your product as a must-have. No one has time, or more importantly, budget for a nice-to-have solution. So even your solution, if you feel it's a nice-to-have, you must find a way to situate it as a must-have in today's economy. The second tip is make sure to equip your champion with enough info to help him sell your solution internally to the CFO. So guys, today we see it again and again in the room, across all of the deals of all of our vendors. The CFO is the new gatekeeper. Today you can build the business case, your manager will be happy, but then comes the CFO, says, guys, sorry, I don't see the value in it. I can't invest in it right now. Budgets are too tight. Third tip I can give is make sure to simplify your buyer's journey. So I think, Daniel, you touched upon that a few moments ago. I can't illustrate that enough. Centralize all the necessary content that your buyer needs in order to make a conscious decision. Be super transparent with your sales process through the use of mutual action plans. So that's a great way to do it. And the fourth and last tip is make sure to sell solutions, not products. So the best reps we're seeing across all of the companies that are using Aligned are the ones who are solution selling. They're talking about their solutions, not the products. Try to remember that your product doesn't matter as much as what it can do for your buyer.
Oh, Gal, I loved all of those. Amazing, amazing tips. And I think we'll put those all in bullet points in the room. Again, QR codes on the screen and the links in the comments box. You'll be able to see some of the key points highlighted in that room, which you can go in and access at any point. The CFO one for me, I've worked with many CFOs over the years. They are a very different breed of person, profession. And I think you're absolutely right. Making sure you identify their importance has definitely gone up. Their value and their sort of involvement in a lot of deals is going to be probably more than it would have been before. So understanding that, and again, making sure you're talking to them, because I guess the conversation you'd have with a CFO would be very different to the one you might have with the CEO or the CMO or whoever you're selling to. If you're selling a software solution to marketing, you're going to be describing, there's a very different solution for them. Whereas the CFO is probably going to want to look at different information. Would you agree, Gal?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The CFO today must see a clear ROI calculator. It must see how you can, your solution, the spend on the solution can yield between 7x to 10x of the investment. That's the only way to grow in the downturn economy and in a tight budget. 100%.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so let's get a bit tactical now. You've mentioned one of the biggest tips was, you need to make things as simple as possible. So what can salespeople and sales teams and sales leaders do to simplify their sales process? What things can they start to action to help make things easier?
So Daniel, based on the data that we're seeing with our clients across all companies, the best sales reps, the ones who are closing the most amount of deals, are the ones who are actively using mutual action plan. So we see them again and again, making sure that their prospect knows what we did, where we are, and what's left. So you want to use mutual action plans, make sure to give a lot of visibility to your prospect. It simplifies their life. It's like giving them a map, right? A literal map to the deal, like a GPS, so they can navigate. They know how long, until we end the evaluation process. It just simplifies their life, makes it better. The second thing we're seeing is that the best reps, they centralize all the content and conversation under one place. This really helps the buyers to build the business case internally, kind of share that with the rest of the stakeholders. And we recommend doing so with the use of digital sales rooms. The third thing you can do is make sure to let all stakeholders know where you are in the process, ideally on a weekly basis. So the best reps we're seeing in terms of win rate, they create a weekly update for all the stakeholders on the deal progress, ideally with success plans.
Love that. Weekly updates. That's an interesting one. That's probably the first time I've heard that tip. That's a really good a good point. I like that. Weekly ones. Now going back to the mutual action plans, again, to everyone who's watching this with us, or even after we've sort of done the live, do you use a mutual action plan? Have you ever used a mutual action plan? Let us know. Just a yes or a no. Let us know in the comments. I'm curious to see how many people out there are currently using them, have used them, and maybe more importantly, how many aren't using them. I know Gal Aligned has some really good content and tips on mutual action plans. I think we might be able to put those into the room. Again, the QR code's there. We'll put some resources in there to help with that, because you're right, they're massively valuable right now. But I do think there are probably a lot of sales teams that maybe aren't using them yet. Are you kind of seeing that?
Yeah. Look, I think, it's funny to say, but I think mutual action plans, they got like a bad reputation back in the days because they weren't like good tools to facilitate it. People, and we see it, like people before they met Aligned, they still using like old spreadsheets and like Excel sheets and Google Docs to try and like facilitate these mutual action plans. And then it's a horrible process, right? Because then you kind of need to work on the Excel and get your buyer to log in, and your buyer needs to kind of work on the Excel, send it back to you. So it really is a tedious process. But now with the use of digital sales rooms and mutual action plans tools, and at Align we really put this is one of our flagship products because we see how much it helps to simplify the deal. It's much easier. The buyers, they don't need to log in. They immediately feel like a part of the plan. They feel like they collaborate better. They're a part of the play. So it really changes the game in that aspect.
Cool. No, I see that. The technology is definitely come together, and Aligned, especially that sort of virtual room, is such a great solution to be able to make all these things a reality, like mutual action plans. Thinking about the time to close a deal. Look, salespeople want to get to that close as quickly as possible. Processes make it complicated. The economy makes it complicated. What impact can a complex sale have on that time to close a deal? Does it make it longer than it should be? And then what can people do to kind of shorten that time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Daniel. I love that question, and I'd love to hear the audience opinions as well. If you want to add your answers in the comments, we'd love to see how you see the answer to this. But basically what we're seeing, it's really, really simple. So the more complex the deal is, the longer it takes. It's as simple as that. So complex deals prolong the sales cycle. No one is taking a lead from the buyer side. So you have a lot of stakeholders from the buyer side, and each one is kind of waiting for the other one to take the lead, to push the deal forward. Each one thinks that they have a lot of time to take because they think that the others are still in process. And the buyer will go to the vendor that makes their life the easiest. So the buyer will go to the vendor that makes their life the easiest to buy. We just see that time kills deals, and we think that's the main risk here. So that's the main impact that we see on complex sales processes.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of sales leaders, and especially senior leaders above them, CEOs and even CFOs, they make the process complicated. So they're kind of creating this friction. And actually, And again, sometimes it's organic, sometimes it's all these tools are coming out and they think, all right, we need to implement this because it's going to help us, because having these tools helps us be more operational or helps us be more efficient, helps us close more deals. So we end up with all these tools because they're all positive, they're all, having a positive contribution. But then as a byproduct, we create this longer process, we put more red tape and processes in that unfortunately has a negative impact. And I guess it's taking a step back and looking and thinking, do you know what, actually, maybe we need to try and intertwine or interconnect or make things easier, because I agree, time kills deals. The longer it goes on, the more at risk it's going to be. And the more at risk, your competitors are going to be coming in. They're going to be looking for alternative options. And you want to kind of get rid of as much of that risk as possible. So yeah, less complexity, more success. That's not the only factor, though. There's so much going on in the world and the economy everywhere. Everyone's economies are going a bit crazy. What impact are you seeing that have? I know you already mentioned CFOs being one of them, CFOs sort of having a lot more involvement. What other things are you sort of seeing that the economy impact is having on salespeople? And again, by the way, Gal will answer this, but everyone who's watching it, let us know how the economy is affecting you. Is it becoming an objection or a challenge that you're facing? But Gal, what are you seeing?
Yeah, based on our data and what we're seeing is that first and foremost, the buyers, they become more skeptical and they take less risks. So they are more risk averse because of low budgets. People don't want to spend these budgets mistakenly, so they want to really make sure what they're spending the budgets on. And I don't think there's a CFO in the world that will tell someone who wants to buy something, you should have spent more money, right? It's always the other way around. So people are really, really tight with their budgets. Buyers have become more cautious in their decision, and it just prolongs the process. So the purchasing process takes longer, and it takes longer to make these decisions. We definitely talked about the CFO. Another thing that we're seeing is that buyers are now more focused on cost effectiveness, and they are prioritizing solutions that offer them the best value for their money. So if you take a year back, 2 years back, you had the metaverse and you had Web3 and all these NFTs and everything was crazy in the world, and everyone were investing in innovative solutions. But today, if you can't show the cost effectiveness of your solution, it's very, very, very hard to get the buy-in. And the last thing we're seeing is that buyers are now placing more emphasis on the reliability and stability of the software that they are purchasing, because they want to make sure that they are making the right decisions for the long term. They don't want to bet on a horse that might not make it to the end of the race.
Interesting. I wonder, I mean, we have no idea how long this impact on the economy is going to have. We don't know when things might change or when it's going to get better. So the best thing we can do is adapt and learn to, I guess, sell in this circumstance until things do change. Because I don't know about you, but I think it's going to be like this for a while. I don't think the end is close. Not to be sort of doom and gloom, but I don't see any big changes happening anytime soon. I think it's going to be a while before we see mega changes to the economy. Do you think so?
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of all of the expectations of what they see, they're talking about the end of 2024. So we still have at least a year and a half to go in this third. And even that, it's just the beginning of the change. It's not going to change in a day. Definitely, the change in economy is here to stay, and we must adapt. Like, if you won't adapt, we will be left behind and die, 100%.
I agree. You've got to compete. It's a similar thing to when COVID happened. A lot of companies and salespeople just put their head in the sand and wanted to wait until it went away. And you just can't do that. You need to adapt, overcome, and sort of move on. So let's look at, we're at 2023 now. Yeah, there's things going on, but we've already given a lot of tips on how to make things simpler and how to be more effective. What are some other things you think salespeople and teams can do to win complex deals, whether it's enterprise deals or complex B2B deals? What are some of the top tips for winning those this year, especially?
Yeah, love that question. So I think the first thing you should do is you must simplify your buyer's journey. Make it easy for them to buy. That's the key for success. Don't try to push it upon them. Just make it easy for them to make their decision. Make sure you can show how your solution is cost effective. That's like a huge key. I can't illustrate that enough. And the third tip I can give is make sure you get all the right stakeholders involved. So a lot of mistakes that we're seeing that reps are doing, and it costs them in the deal, is that they're not making all of the relevant decision makers involved in that decision-making process. So make sure you get them all involved, you keep them up to date with where the deal is at. This creates visibility, and visibility creates trust in you as a vendor.
I like it. I like it. Keep everyone involved. And there was an interesting statistic, and I'm not going to be able to quote the numbers, but I can remember maybe 10, 15 years ago, the sort of top stat was there were maybe 7 to 8 decision makers on average in a deal. And complex deals can have anywhere, I think it's up to 15, sometimes more decision makers involved. That's a lot of people. And as a salesperson, that's a lot of people to orchestrate, to communicate with, without tools. And when you look at things like platforms like Aligned, where you can create a central place, it makes things incredibly simpler. So yes, sales is complicated now. It is complex. Buying is complex. So what can you do? What can your business do to make it easier for you to sell and for your customers to buy? It's not often you see people making that connection. Usually it's, this is what you do to sell better, and actually I love that Aligned is sort of bringing the two, because they are intertwined, aren't they?
100%. They're definitely intertwined. You must make sure that you help your buyer buy and not try and sell them more. That's the key, I think, in 2023.
Yeah, buyer-centric selling. Put your buyer first. It's so simple, but it's such a game changer. Everyone's trying to sell something. Well, why not try and help your customers instead? Why not think of them? Make your product, like you say, sell the solution, but make the process easy as well, which, leads us nicely to this point then. So digital sales rooms, workspaces, what are they and how do they work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we see is that digital sales room, essentially what they do is they help centralize all of your content, conversation, and processes in one place under a single source of truth. It enables you to just share the deal and work on the deal collaboratively with your buyer team and your seller team in one place. So some of them are more on the collaborative side. I can say that, at Aligned, we put a lot of emphasis on collaborativeness. Some of them are more on the content sharing. So a lot of the digital sales rooms you see out there are being used as like content hubs. What it does in terms of the value, it keeps everyone aligned. It makes buyers more involved. It speeds up the deal and it helps keep everyone on track, essentially. And the most important thing is that it prevents deals from slipping through the cracks. So that's the best thing, digital sales rooms do. I think what we're seeing with the trends is that it's becoming like a must-have, and we're seeing like more and more salespeople. It started from the top reps and the top companies, and now we're seeing it going, to the mainstream. And all companies that we are seeing now are using one or other sort of form of a digital sales room to manage their deals in 2023.
And I'm not surprised. It is an incredible resource, and everyone can actually see one in action right now. The QR code is on the screen, and there is a link in the comments, and we'll post another one after the live, and we'll send out an email with the sort of the link to the session as well as a link to the room. So we've created a digital sales room for this LinkedIn Live. As soon as it's finished, we're going to upload the recording in there. The key points we've made are going to be highlighted in there, along with some additional resources as well. So you'll see it in action. And I just want you to look at it, not just as a resource for this LinkedIn Live, but think, wow, what if I could give that to my customer and it had everything they needed for the sales process, all the product information, all of the processes, everything. And then all of the stakeholders could access it and communicate. I love, again, making something complex. Anything that makes something simple is a win for me. And if it makes it easier for the salesperson, great. Plus easier for the buyer, double great. It's a win-win scenario, which I think is a big important point, especially in 2023. We need to be having those win-win scenarios. It's not about the salesperson winning. It's not about the buyer winning. Sales work when both parties win, when the customer's getting value, when they're getting a nice ROI, the salesperson's getting the business, you've created a relationship. That's what sales is about. It's not just trying to sell something. You're creating something that works together, which, again, putting that buyer first. what is buyer enablement? We've heard a lot about sales enablement. That drum's been banging for many years now. What is buyer enablement? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Look, buyer enablement is not just a trend. It's not like another name for sales enablement. It is a different movement. So buyer enablement essentially is the process of assisting and empowering potential customers in their decision-making journey. Buyer enablement involves providing buyers with the necessary information, tools, resources, and the support that they need in order to help them navigate the purchasing process in a more effective way and a more efficient way. So essentially, the goal is to have a smoother and more informed decision-making process. Essentially, you're leading to a better customer experience and a stronger relationship between the businesses involved.
I love that. And we've been doing these LinkedIn Lives for many years now, and I have to admit, they're always sales focused on the sales team, on the sales process. And I love that we're talking about the buyer here because it's such a key point. Sales is hard. You need to care more for your buyers. You need to care more for your customers. And I love that we've now got tools and technology that puts them first, or at least at the same level as the salesperson, and we're sort of trying to sort of intertwine it, which I think is massively important. Look, with everything that's going on, 2023, I mean, we're nearly halfway through the year already. 2024 is just around the corner. Why do you think buyer enablement is going to be important this year and probably for the next few years at least?
Yeah, just to take your last point, I think, like you said, you guys have been speaking about the seller, and now we're speaking about the buyer. But essentially, the buyer is the key to the seller, right, Daniel? If you make your buyer's life easier, then the seller is happy, and they just work better together. So you asked about buyer enablement, why it's a must in 2023. I think there's a few main reasons why it's such a must. So first of all, according to Gartner, buyers will only spend 17% of their decision-making process with the seller. 17%. So that means that 83% of the time is not being spent with you in terms of decision-making. So what are they doing? They're reading about you outside in different articles. They're going to research your other vendors, competitors. They're doing committees inside. So if they're gonna read about your industry and solution and look for relevant resources about it, they might as well be getting it from you and your enablement. So instead of sending your buyer to different resources, you can send them to that designated place and kind of help them consume all the enablement that they need in order to make a conscious decision. Buyers today are much more smarter. So they like to do their own research. They like to take their time, especially in this downturn economy. We're seeing that they are looking for that self-service approach. So, they're less inclined to hop into that demo, hear another pitch. They want to have, their own information in their own time in an asynchronous way and kind of really research in it. And, I think essentially you must help your buyers convince the management internally and build a business case, as it's harder for them to convince the CFO and other stakeholders in this downturn economy. So these are the reasons why I think it's a must.
I completely agree, and I just want to paint a picture. Most buyers right now, as you say, there's many stakeholders involved. Maybe it's one or two, maybe it's 3, 4, 5 plus. There's a lot of people involved, and at the moment, if you're buying a product, a piece of software, or whatever it may be, you've probably had all these different conversations, received all these different videos, documents, and when you're then trying to talk to other relevant stakeholders and decision makers, it's nearly impossible to communicate everything that you want to communicate. So can you imagine if you had one central place where everything was, and that could be passed around and that people could come in and come out? That's definitely the future of sales. I think it's a no-brainer there. The question is, are you going to embrace it before your competitors do? And I think that leads us kind of nicely to sort of wrapping today's session up. You need to check out Aligned is the summary I'm going to give to all of this. We'll highlight some of the top tips in a second, but there is a QR code on the screen. We're going to be broadcasting links out to this as well. Go and check out Aligned. Check out the room we've created for this session. You'll also find details at the bottom where you can try it for yourself or have a conversation with the team to learn more about it. But trust me, this is going to be everywhere, and all your competitors are going to have amazing rooms. So now is the time to get ahead of the curve. It's a rare opportunity in sales to get ahead of the curve. Embrace this now. Make buying easier for your prospects, and it might just help you grow your sales this year, which isn't an easy task. But making things simpler, A, for you as a salesperson, B, for your buyers as decision makers, is going to be key to it. Gal, your tips have been incredible. I'm really looking forward to our room sort of coming to life when we sort of pop all the resources in and we get the recording in. Any sort of final top tips for everyone that's been watching this who are going to go away? What's going to help them sell as well as embracing platforms like Aligned?
Yeah, best tip I can say, go to Align, try it for free, feel the magic for yourself. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, any thoughts, we're here. We're constantly researching this world of buyer enablement. We're using and aggregating smart data, and we're serving it to our clients and audience. So happy to continue doing that. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for having me today and letting us tell the story. And of course, discussing why buyer enablement is so important in 2023. What happened? Why did it become so complex, and how you can simplify it?
I think you've really helped, not just with the product, but today, just some of the tips and insights and data-backed tips that you've shared is really valuable for salespeople. But again, it all draws down to buying is complicated, selling is complicated. We need to make it simpler. And there are new platforms like Aligned that do just that, make it easy. And again, we're so excited to bring it to life with this session. The QR code's there. We'll be sending the link out. It is the virtual room for our LinkedIn Live, and you can create things like that for your customers. So go and see it for yourself. Open your eyes, realize, wow, imagine if I could have this for my customers, and go and start building your rooms today. And if you have any questions or need any help, I know Gal and the team at Aligned are there for you. So thank you to everyone who's watched this live with us. Thank you to everyone who watches this later throughout the day and onwards. Again, if you have any questions, do reach out. Gal, thank you for your incredible value. And thank you so much for building such an awesome platform. I hope we can have you back to dig a bit deeper into maybe how you can really get the most out of these rooms, because I can imagine it's not going to be long before lots of sales teams are embracing this, and the next step is going to be, well, we've got these rooms, how can we maximize using them? So maybe we can do a session on getting the most out of these sales rooms to really take that buyer enablement to that next level.
100%. Can't wait to do that session.
Love it. Gal, thank you very much. To everyone who's watched it with us, thank you as well. And we look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.
See you.